Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Domain.com.
Today on Variant, I give you the history of James Gordon. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than this dog loves his bath. I'm your host, Arris. Since Gotham Season 2 returns next Monday, I knew I wanted to do something Gotham related for this week's episode. And there's no better fit than Jim Gordon since, well, he's the lead character on Gotham. But not only is he the lead character on the Gotham TV series, Gordon is easily one of the most important characters in the Batman universe. And besides Alfred and Robin, he's probably the character that's most recognizable to the casual Batman/comic fan. So let's dive into the history of one of Batman's greatest allies. The character debuted in the first panel of Detective Comics issue 27 in May of 1939, which is also Batman's first appearance. James Gordon, or Jim Gordon for short, was created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane, although it is argued whether or not Bob Kane really had any involvement with Gordon's creation. A cool piece of info is that Gordon's name was taken from the earlier pulp character Commissioner James W. Wildcat Gordon, also known as the Whisperer, created in 1936. But now I'm going to give you guys a brief evolution of Jim Gordon's character over the years in comic books. During the golden age of comics, Gordon did not like Batman's attempt at vigilantism and became bitter and resentful of the Caped Crusader. Jim did not like Batman's method of tracking down criminals and torturing them because it was going above the law. Eventually, Batman was able to talk to Jim and they were able to set aside their differences and work together to help rid Gotham of crime. Jim would deputize Batman, making him an official law enforcer. You heard me correctly, Gordon deputized Batman in issue 7 of the original Batman series. That's kind of funny. From this point on, Jim now frequently contacted Batman for help in solving crimes and to fight supervillains. Then we have Gordon post-Crisis on Infinite Earths, which of course changed things, and Gordon was reintroduced in the Batman world during Frank Miller's Batman Year One story. The story focuses on both Batman and Gordon's first year fighting crime in Gotham. In this version, Gordon is transferred to a corrupt GCPD after spending several years in Chicago. He moves to Gotham with his wife Barbara Keene, who's pregnant with their son James Gordon Jr. It's also added he's a Special Forces veteran who is skilled in hand-to-hand combat. Gordon, being a man of integrity, soon finds out that Batman is his only ally against the corruption in Gotham. And in case you're wondering, in this version, Batman is never deputized by Gordon, which I know I definitely prefer. Their relationship is also kept out of the public eye whenever possible. During this time, Gordon first begins an affair with his future wife, Sarah Essen, which puts a strain on his already fragile relationship with his current wife, Barbara Keene. Sometime later, in the midst of solving a horrible series of crimes involving child abuse, Gordon's marriage falls apart. Barbara leaves him and returns to Chicago with James Jr. Also, it should be mentioned that James Jr. grows up to be a psycho. Then, of course, we have one of the best Batman stories ever written, in my opinion, The Killing Joke. As I'm sure most of you know, this is the story where Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, gets shot by the Joker, which paralyzes her for several years in the comics, and where Jim Gordon is tortured and tormented by the Joker. Now, some of you might be saying, I know Arris said Gordon's son, James Gordon, was in Batman Year One, or at least his wife Barbara was pregnant with him, so that's where he came from, but when did Barbara Gordon come into existence? Well, depending on the continuity, it depends. Pre-Crisis continuity, Barbara Gordon first appeared in Detective Comics issue 359 in 1967, which is where she also first became Batgirl. In this continuity, she's the biological daughter of Gordon. But then we have post-Crisis continuity. After the death of Gordon's brother and sister-in-law, he adopts his niece Barbara. Soon after he adopts Barbara, he divorces his wife, who returned to Chicago with their son James Jr., which I mentioned earlier. So that's where she fits into that time period. Changing once again, the New 52 revealed that Jim Gordon and Barbara Keene were the biological parents of Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, although her mother had left her when she was just a child. To tell you the truth, it's all really confusing and kind of annoying how things get retconned and changed so much, but what can I say? Welcome to the world of comic books. I love them dearly, but man, can they be confusing sometimes. So now that I sorted out where Jim's daughter fits into his life, let's talk about the No Man's Land story, because a pretty pivotal point in Jim's life happened in this story. At this point in time, Jim had already fallen in love with Sarah Essen, who he was having an affair with in Batman Year One. Jim quickly married her, but their relationship would take a turn. Sarah questioned Jim to why he needed Batman so much, and this put a strain on their marriage. However, she was fatally shot and killed by the Joker while she was trying to protect a bunch of innocent babies from him. Jim would soon have the Joker at point blank range, but was convinced by Batman not to kill the Joker, even though he really wanted to. But instead, Jim shoots him in the leg in hopes of crippling him. The Joker got the joke that it was payback for crippling Barbara and began to laugh uncontrollably, which was a great moment. The Joker is just absolutely crazy. I love it. And summing up things a little bit quicker, a little while after No Man's Land, Jim was shot by a common crook that was looking for revenge. Jim retires from the Gotham police force after serving over 20 years in Gotham. He decides to remain in Gotham and would occasionally get visits from Batman, who would also seek advice from Jim. Then we have the 1 year later storyline, which jumped exactly 1 year into the future of the DC universe, following the events of Infinite Crisis. In 1 year later, we see that Jim has returned to the GCPD as the police commissioner, and skipping some other things here and there brings us to DC's New 52, which revamped and changed certain things, giving us the current continuity for Jim Gordon. In the New 52, Gordon is still the commissioner of GCPD and a former Marine, but is younger than his traditional portrayal. He has his traditional red hair and mustache from Batman Year 1, and he was once married to Barbara Keene, and the two are the biological parents of Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. In Batman Eternal, the story begins when Gordon is tricked into shooting an unarmed suspect in an underground train station, resulting in the train derailing and Gordon being arrested. Batman Eternal is actually a really fun read, and Jim's part in the story is just one piece to the massive puzzle that is Batman Eternal. In Batman Endgame, Gordon investigates the Joker while working with Batman, who's dealing with an infected Gotham. Long story short, Gordon shoots Joker in the chest, telling Batman he finally did it. He killed the Joker. But of course, Joker isn't really dead. He comes back to life and puts an axe in Gordon's chest, badly injuring him and infecting him with the Joker virus. And spoiler warning for the Endgame storyline in 3, 2, 1. You guys have been warned. By the end of the story, Batman saves the city and all his friends, but at the cost of his life as he dies alongside the Joker in their final battle. This brings us to the most current Batman story at the time of me shooting this video, which is called Super Heavy. This is where, as most of us know by now, Gordon takes over the mantle of Batman and fights the new Gotham supervillain, Mr. Bloom. It is also revealed in this story that Bruce is still alive but has amnesia. But as we all know from the solicitations for the cover of Batman 50, Bruce becomes Batman once again by the end of this story. Which, I mean, every long comic book fan knew it was only a matter of time before that happened. And there you have it, my brief history of Jim Gordon. Although, I can't do a history of Jim Gordon and not at least mention Harvey Bullock. As most of us know, Harvey Bullock was once a corrupt GCPD cop until he turned over a new leaf and made a conscious effort to be an honest lawman. He eventually became one of Jim Gordon's most trusted officers. Now, I know that was extremely brief, but I think Bullock deserves his own history of episode, so I'll save talking more about him in a future episode. But now it's a time you all love so much, reading recommendation time. You have Batman Year 1, The Long Halloween, The Killing Joke, No Man's Land, The Skeleton Cases, Batman Eternal, Batman Endgame, and Batman Super Heavy. When you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence and control what people find when they search for you online. No domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and easy to use. The guys at domain.com gave Variants an awesome offer. Get 15% off domain.com's already affordable domain names and web hosting when you use the coupon code Variants at checkout. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. First up for Wednesday, February 24th, we have Daredevil issue 4. Season 2 of Daredevil is just around the corner, and if you want to get your Daredevil fix early, you should read this comic. Here we have We Are Robin issue 9. The Jokers are growing in power while the Robins remain divided on how or if they should respond. And finally, we have Justice League issue 49. The Darkseid war continues as the Justice League is forced to unite with their evil counterparts, the Crime Syndicate. And that brings another episode of Variant to a close. But remember, you can always like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow Variant on Twitter at Variant Comics or this face on Twitter at Arris_Quinones. And if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. At this point in time, Jim had already fallen in love with Sarah Essen, who he was having an affair with in Batman 1. Dum dum gimme gum gum. You dum dum gimme gum gum.